It's 2019 and we're gonna be doing some big things. The first thing I wanna do, or one of the first things I wanna do, is do a full review on the Timber Grove airbag suspension setup. You may have seen the installation video here a couple weeks ago. Now that I've had the chance to actually use the truck for a couple of weeks, I'm gonna dial in the suspension a little bit to where I want, and the nice thing about this is it's super easy and super fast. Then we're gonna take it for a final drive once I have this suspension exactly dialed in, and do the full review of the Timber Grove airbag coil replacement mount suspension setup along with the onboard air compressor. So here we are underneath the truck, and if you did miss the first video, this is the automatic leveling valve. I can adjust it a little bit. You see if I pull down, you can hear the air escaping, and if you push up, it'll add more air. So what we're gonna do is, this is the rod that tells the truck the ride height, and since I wanna take this side down a little bit, we're gonna undo this screw, bring the rod down a little bit, just a tiny bit, maybe 2 turns. All with the help of my gear wrench ratcheting wrenches. We're gonna, I believe, I wanna go this way. Yeah, there you go. So you can hear the air escaping out. So we'll just kind of slow and steady. You want to do very small adjustments. So I just brought it down, as you can see, a tiny little bit, and what we'll do is we'll let this level out, and then we'll take a look and see. You do this for each side. It's kind of a longer, tedious process, but if you want the perfect ride height, this is how you get it. The other really important things to consider is your sway bar. Now, upgrading your sway bar is not a requirement for this airbag kit, but I would highly recommend it. The sway bar that comes from factory is also obviously very thin, designed for, you know, on-road use, stuff like that. I do have a video here, which I'll link in the description, that is the installation of the Hellwig sway bar. Since I've adjusted the ride height, I'm gonna just quickly go down there, make sure that the sway bar matches the correct height now that we've changed the ride height in the back. I'm going to use this very nice, very cool 5/8 inch socket from Sunex, along with this Milwaukee Fuel 3/8 ratcheting wrench, obviously. When I was a tech for CAT, we would use something like this, which is a Ingersoll Rand air-powered 3/8 drive ratchet. Now this is obviously very good, but as you may know, a lot of things are going to battery these days, and when you can get a similar torque out of something like this, and you don't have to have air, you don't have to have all that stuff that goes along with it, air tool oil, stuff like that, this is probably the way of the future. And for the price, these Milwaukee electric tools are very, very, very good. So let's address the sway bar, then we'll drive this thing. So upon closer investigation, we can see that the sway bar is actually pretty close to in spec. But if you haven't seen the video, once again, I will link it below, but this is the adjustable control arms, and this is the Hellwig sway bar, which is much thicker, much chunkier than stock. And as you can see, there is the airbags there, and you know, it just helps sway. I haven't had any issues with these feeling, you know, out of bounds or not solid, but that'll just help you. Now, before we go to a drive, it's important to know that depending on how you spec this kit, it can range anywhere from $400 all the way up to thousands of dollars. And depending on what you want to achieve, this kit may or may not be what's right for you. So the reason I got it is because with the King shocks up front, and the leveling kit up front, I wanted to get the ride height in the rear absolutely perfect. And I'm looking at 4 different sets of rear coils on the ground, which are off camera, different lowering heights, different things like that, and I could never get the rear absolutely perfect. It always sat too low or too high. So the reason that I got this kit is so I can set the ride height on each side exactly where I want it. The best springs that I got out of the 4 were the H&R 1.6 lowering springs, but like I said, they still dropped it a little bit too low, and the driver's side sat about a ½ inch lower than the passenger side because of the coil rate not being correct for the fuel tank, the DEF tank, and the driver. So usually a coil spring will be about 300 pounds, have a 300-pound coil rate heavier on the driver's side. I think I said that right. But with this airbags, as you saw in the beginning, I was able to just finely tune them, and I think I've got it pretty much perfect in the rear ride height. So that's the reason I got it. The nice thing about the kit with the air compressor under the front bumper is once it's set, it's completely set it and forget it. Barring any maintenance issues or things that go wrong, the truck will now always maintain that ride height, whether it's towing a trailer, whether I have a heavy load in the bed of the truck, or whether I've got a really fat guy in the passenger seat and it pulls that passenger side down a little bit more. It doesn't matter what goes on, the rear of the truck will always be at the same ride height that I set it. The air compressor under the front bumper is very nice quality. For me, it only needs to engage about once every 1 or 2 days to keep the airbags inflated, and that's only because when I park on the driveway, it uses a lot of air, and then when I reverse, it lets all that air out, and it has to fill the tank back up. But I think if I was to park on a level surface all the time, it wouldn't even use it that much. There is going to be a video towing with this kit, which is going to be a separate video, so take this opportunity to subscribe so you don't miss that video. I post a lot of different truck and detailing, DIY related videos, so please do subscribe. That's it for now. I got everything charged up, I got everything bolted down, so we're going to hit the road and see what it's like driving with this kit. So like I said, the nice thing about these airbags is they're completely customizable, set it and forget it. Now, as you're driving, you may hear the air compressor kick on. It's not a big deal. For me, it lasts about 30 to 40 seconds. Over the sound of the diesel, it's negligible. I really can't hear it really at all. One of the things that is very important during the installation process is you make sure there's absolutely 0 air leaks. Just 1 air leak could cause the automatic air compressor to cycle more often than it needs to, which it's said, you know, Steve from Timber Grove told me about 12 to 15 cycles of the air compressor without the vehicle being on will most likely cause the battery to die. If you have a heavy duty series 2500 or 3500, you run less risk of that because obviously it has 2 batteries, but on the 1500 line, the Tacomas, the Frontiers, stuff like that, and the Titans that only have 1 battery, you do have to be aware of that. I did purchase one of those battery jump packs, so you don't have to have another car to jump start your battery just in case, but I actually haven't had to use it yet. And when I first put these on, I went out of town for 5 days, left the truck parked, and I didn't have any issues whatsoever. So the ride quality is very, very nice actually. The lowering springs were pretty harsh over bumps, and I wasn't very happy with them. It almost felt like you're riding on the bump stops a lot of the time. The ride quality on these Timber Grove airbags is phenomenal. And when you get them set just so, it is very pleasant. I can already tell after lowering the driver's side a little bit, because it was jacked up a little bit too high. Just because I haven't taken the time to perfect them just yet, I can already tell that this driver's side is riding a little bit nicer than it was before, because obviously now there's less air, less PSI in that airbag to maintain the same ride height that I wanted to achieve. So the air compressor just happened to kick on, so you may hear it in the background. I'll be quiet for a minute. That's the sound of it at idle, not at driving speed. Obviously when the engine is revved up, then you really can't hear it at all, but I'm stuck in a drive-through, so you're gonna hear it at idle speed only. Alright guys, well that is going to pretty much wrap up the on-road review without a trailer. Like I said in the beginning of this video, if you are interested in finding out what the towing capabilities are of this kit, make sure you are subscribed. It helps out the channel. Please do leave a like on this video. That helps the videos raise in ranking, and if anybody else has a similar question to you that you found the answer in this video, it may help them. Once again, I want to say a huge thank you to Steve at Timber Grove Enterprises. His link will be in the description below if you want to check out one of these awesome systems for yourself. And finally, if you do have any questions that I can help you answer, please do leave them in a comment below or send me a direct message on Instagram at Jay Flat Out. Thank you again guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next video.